Diets and workouts, you've done the work, so why can't you get to your goal weight? That's because up to 70% of your weight is predetermined by your genetics. So while you've been told that it's all about your willpower, you're actually fighting your biology. Don't do it alone. Found's Doctor Design program uses medication as part of a treatment plan that targets your body's unique biological needs, so that your body works with you and not against you. Take the quiz at joinfound.com to see if Found's weight loss program is right for you.
You've discovered your link to GoPowercat.com's Powercat Podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowercat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
The first thing you probably need to know about Kansas State's new linebacker coach, Steve Stanard, is he's a Husker. Well, forgive him. He played at Nebraska under Tom Osborne, graduating in the late 80s, briefly joined their coaching staff as a graduate assistant, and then plunged headfirst into coaching at the Division III level at Nebraska Wesleyan, eventually becoming the head coach, and he admits he had no idea what he was doing. South Dakota, New Mexico State, Colorado State, he began to climb the ladder of coaching as you have to do. Ohio, Tulane, and then the fateful trip in the 2012 and 13 seasons when he went to North Dakota State, coaching under his former defensive coordinator, Craig Bull, and meeting Chris Kleiman. He then followed Bull to Wyoming, and then in 2017 set off to Syracuse to coach the defensive ends. And now, with the departure of Scotty Hazelton, Kansas State's former linebacker coach and defensive coordinator, he's rejoined Kleiman and company in Manhattan as Kansas State's linebackers coach. Welcome to the Powercat Sources Podcast, the podcast in which we talk directly to the people we consider our sources. But let me be honest here. Today, when I called Steve Stanard, it was the first time we have spoken. Such is life in the pandemic. He arrived in Manhattan when everything was going on to lockdown. He spent his first 3 months in town, living in a hotel, going to work, and really not doing much of anything other than Zoom calls with his new players and getting ready for a season nobody was sure would actually take place. Well, we are playing football at Kansas State, and in the Big 12, they're 3 games into their season, and Kansas State is 2-1. Strangely enough, as you know, losing to Arkansas State to open the season before beating Oklahoma and Texas Tech. And Steve Stanard's linebackers have been pretty darn good so far this season. They better be. He has 3 seniors in his top 4 players, and the 2 starters, Eli Sullivan and Justin Hughes, are 6th-year seniors, both having an injury season that they got back from the NCAA. You know, you go into these conversations with someone you've never met, and you need to find some common ground, and you need to find some things to talk about. 30 minutes is a long time to shoot the you-know-what with someone whom you've never met. But that's what we accomplished, as you will hear in this Sources podcast. Steve Stanard seems like a pretty darn good fit for this coaching staff, and he slid right in and hasn't missed a beat. Let's get to my conversation with new Kansas State linebackers coach, Steve Stanard. Welcome to the Sources podcast, Coach, and I wonder what was going through your head when you came to Kansas State, kind of, on a late notice almost, and you walk into the whole situation, but you find out you have 2 6-year seniors in your linebacker room, which is just incredibly rare for any football program, but to have 2 guys like Eli Sullivan and Justin Hughes had to be something that put a smile on your face.
No doubt. I mean, it's been an interesting path. I remember I was connecting in Chicago to come to Manhattan, and Hank, our DFO, called and said, school's been shut down. And I'm like, well, what do I do? He goes, I don't know. You can either come or go back home. And so I came out here and stayed in the hotel for about 3 months, and we did everything on Zoom. So it's not been your typical transition, but the great thing about it has been Eli and Cody and Justin. And all 3 of those seniors have been fantastic. And they've had several coaches in their careers, and I have really appreciated the relationship that we've been able to build very quickly.
How good are they as players? What do they need to work on, I guess?
Justin is very intelligent as far as his football IQ. He's a smart player, and he knows where to put himself in position. He knows who he is, and he's better when he does a great job of bending his knees and playing with a sense of urgency, because he has good vision and understands where he's supposed to be. Eli is very talented, explosive, can run, and Eli is continuing to work on his ability to adjust on the fly, week to week when we make some adjustments in the game plan. But between the two of them, they both played a lot of football, and Eli is a very instinctive football player.
And Cody Fletcher has really given you some valuable minutes, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, Cody played really well last week and had a huge pass breakup there at the end of the game, which was huge on that last drive that got us off the field. So, yeah, I have no hesitation to put Cody Fletcher on the field, and he's a tremendous special teams player for us.
And Daniel Green's your only underclassman. You got 3 seniors and then him in your main rotation. What does he bring to the field?
Deuce is untapped talent from the standpoint of he is long and can run. He is a young man that wants to learn. He's like a sponge. He's got a good football mind. Same thing, with Deuce is learning to play the game with knees bent because of his length, so that he can get his foot in the ground, change direction, and get to where he needs to be more efficiently. And that's what linebacker is all about. It's not about necessarily always having the fastest 40, but it's about getting from point A to point B and back to point A without wasting movement, having great feet and great vision.
And so much of that just becomes instinctive, and you can only get that through reps, right?
No doubt. And we've been fortunate. It feels like we practiced a long time before we ever felt like we crammed spring ball and fall camp into one situation there. And you can never have enough of it. But I think Deuce and all those guys are continuing to learn and make up for lost time.
Do we need to come up with a new nickname for Mr. Green? I mean, this is going to get confusing.
Hey, that's too funny. My son, my 14-year-old son said that to me yesterday, last night after the game, or the other night after the game. He said, hey, is Deuce upset that he might be losing his nickname?
like he could be OG Deuce, the old guard. I don't know, but that other Deuce is pretty darn good. I know that.
No doubt. It's funny. Some of the other coaches starting to call him Daniel more than Deuce. And when I first got here, everything was Deuce. And I'm like, who's this Deuce guy? And it's Daniel Green. So, he'll always be Deuce to me. And that's all right. As long as they both keep playing well, they both can have the nickname.
How rough, weird, challenging was it to show up in a new town, move into a hotel for 3 months? You don't have your players in front of you other than electronically via Zoom, and try to get acclimated and have them get to know them and have them get to know you. It had to be almost impossible.
It was a challenge. And, in seeing their faces on Zoom every day, you felt like, I kind of know this guy. And then they come walking in and, you see them in person. It's always a different deal. And learning everyone's nuances and quirks and getting to know their personalities and body language and vice versa for them. It's been a challenge. But I tell you, the one thing that was the true blessing, the fact that I'm from, Lincoln, Nebraska, and my family was only 2 hours north. That's the one that kept me sane, because I was able to go up there and see them. And they were able to come down and see me, because I was a long ways away from Syracuse and the rest of my wife and my other kids. So thank goodness I'm from these parts, and I was able to still see some family. But it was awesome to get those guys on campus this summer and get to build relationships with them.
I really hope that at some point you were able to go home in that window between the Big 12 deciding to play and the Big 10 deciding not to play, and just walk around Lincoln and say, hey, we're going to play football, because that would have made you really popular around town.
Oh, yeah. And we kind of chuckle seeing the schedule the Big Ten put out. for Nebraska. I think I don't know if it was intentional payback.
Oh, it was.
Or what, but they gave them not an easy schedule, that's for sure.
Just learn your place, Nebraska. You're the Western new team in this conference. Just sit there and look pretty. That's the message I think they were sent. And
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, but it's still hard for me to believe that they're not in the Big 12 anymore, even though it's been a long time since they've been in the Big 10. But it just doesn't seem right that we're not playing them every year.
I know, and I actually feel for their fans because they had all those great road trips that were part of their culture, and that all disappeared, and now they're driving north in the winter to go watch college football, and that's not easy.
Well, there's no better conference than the Big 12, so
yeah, exactly.
We're excited. I'm excited. The family, we're all excited to be here.
Your first introduction to Big 12 football as a member of the staff was going to Oklahoma. How big of a challenge was that for you to help your team get regrouped after that loss to Arkansas State and go take on what was then the number 3 team in the country?
You know, I was really proud of everyone in this football program, from the head coach to the all his assistants to the players. I mean, that was some soul searching for 2 weeks. And I think everybody really did what we do best, and that's went to work and, pounded the stone for 2 weeks. To go have the performance that we had at Oklahoma was really rewarding because of a lot of time and energy that went into getting our focus where it needed to be to have the 2 kind of games we've had, the last couple of weeks. And I hadn't been in Oklahoma's stadium since the early 90s when I was a GA. And so to get to go back there and to win like that was really special.
Yeah, it was something else, and having 2 in a row over Oklahoma is a rare treat, so that's nice. And Texas Tech's a good football team. They come in and they could have caught you guys kind of looking ahead or looking back at the Oklahoma game, and you guys took care of business. But what did Texas Tech do in the running game? I didn't think this would be a question I'd ask. In the running game that gave you so much problems?
In the first half, the guys did a really nice job. There was not much production in their run game. And we went in knowing that if we did not let them throw the ball and take big shots and give up explosives, and if they had to run the football, we were going to win the game. And so I think we probably played more pass than run, especially like with the linebackers, and we hammered that into them. And in the second half, I want to give them their props. They came out, made some adjustments to what they were doing, blocking scheme wise on some of their bread and butter runs, and we gave up that long one on third down, which kind of, when you give up a 50-yarder, it skews your rushing yardage. And then we gave up too many scrambles, so there was probably 100 yards in scrambles and one play on that third down blitz that popped on us. But play that we call split zone, they were able to find some creases that we got to get shored up because TCU, runs the same play as it does everybody else, and we got to make sure our fits are sound.
Yeah, I was impressed with how you guys got it back under control, because sometimes when that starts to spiral with a team like Tech, they get going fast, they get into that rhythm. It's almost like you're spinning out on ice. You can't get control of it very easily, and you guys did. That was impressive.
Yeah, really proud of everybody, the players on both sides of the ball, to handle, losing your starting quarterback. And I didn't realize we had lost him until I saw him on the sideline, second half of the sling on. And I was like, dang, Skyler. And because you're so focused on your side of the ball and making corrections, you don't even get to watch the game. I come home, my family's like, did you see this play by Deuce? Did you see this play? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I was talking to the linebackers and making adjustments. So, I think everybody just kept going about their business. And I think some guys came up, obviously, with some big plays. J-Mac had a great interception, and Wyatt had a nice pass rush that got the quarterback off stride and on his heels when he had to loft that ball up there. I think that was a big moment in the game for us.
Man, takeaways have been in your favor this year, and it gets a lot easier to win football games when you do that.
Yeah, we just got to keep blocking the punt every game. We're gonna hopefully we go ahead.
It's true. I mean, you block a punt every game, you look really smart because you get free points out of it almost always. So it's been uncanny. Have you ever been around a team that's blocked a punt 3 games in a row?
No. Sometimes you're lucky to block one a year. So
yeah, it's crazy.
It is. It's a tribute to those guys and their attention to detail on special teams, both the coaches and the players.
TCU might try to sneak 14 guys out there on their first punt to make sure it doesn't happen to them.
They're a well-coached outfit, so we're gonna have to be on point.
Yeah, they looked good. They looked good against Texas, and I'm in favor of anything that keeps Texas in check. So that worked out well. Now we'll see what happens on Saturday. I'm looking at your career here, Coach. You went to North Dakota State in 12 and 13, and I take it that's when you first met Chris Kleiman and some of these guys you're around now?
Yeah. I mean, what an awesome experience. And I had to get talked into going up there to look at that situation. Craig Bull, the head coach at that time, he was a GA when I was a freshman way back when in Nebraska. And we'd known each other for a long time, and he finally said, "Hey, you're going to come up and take a look at this place." And some other guys that coached there and said, "Hey, you need to look at it." And so I went up there. As soon as I got up there and got on campus and saw the Fargo Dome and all that, I was like, "Oh, wow, this is big time football up here." And then to get to work with Coach Kleiman for those 2 years, very special years in my career for me and my family, to experience that kind of culture and 2 national championships. Was remarkable, and we'll cherish those forever. And then to get the chance to come back and Coach Kleiman and our families know each other well, and it's been great to get to be around his whole family again, and my family to be around his and help develop the culture here, the kind of culture that he and I both value. Mm-hmm. And the reason he hired me, I think, is because he knows the kind of person I am, and we worked side by side in the same room.
Well, you left there, you went with Coach Bull to Wyoming, and then you ended up at Syracuse, which is a program that's been winning a lot of games lately. They've been doing really well. How hard of it, or was it hard to make the decision to leave upstate New York and come back to the Midwest to join the Kansas State staff?
I really enjoyed Coach Babers, the coaching staff. Developed, in 3 years there, a lot of friends, and really developed close ties with the players there. And that was hard to leave Syracuse. And Dino treated me and my family very well, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I think he understood the opportunity to come back, to be this close to my mom, my dad, my brothers, sisters, my 2 older children. To be 2 hours away, like my dad said, I've seen you more in 6 months than I have the last 20 years. and then to get to coach for a program like Kansas State in a conference like the Big 12, I just couldn't pass up this opportunity, and appreciative that Coach Kleiman gave it to us.
That will do it for the first half of my conversation with K-State linebackers coach Steve Stanard here on the Powercat Sources Podcast. But don't go anywhere. We got good stuff on the other side.
The Powercat Podcast will be right back.
My days working, taking care of my little ones can be a lot. I checked out care.com, and it was so easy for me to find local, experienced, and background check sitters. Finding our babysitter was way more affordable than I thought. Care.com makes it super easy. Search for qualified candidates. You can view their profiles, read reviews and ratings, check their availability, send messages directly, and get the help that you need. Care.com should be every person's go-to.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
We now send it back to the Powercat Podcast.
Welcome back to the Sources Podcast. Let's continue our discussion about K-State football and his career with linebackers coach Steve Stanard. As I look at your resume, I noticed something that jumps out at me because of the dates. You were at Nebraska, finishing up, starting out when the transition between the previous regime and Bill Snyder coming in. As a Nebraska guy, watching what Coach Snyder did from 1989 forward, how unbelievable was it?
It was a valuable experience to see that. And you could just see it in the Nebraska staff and Coach Osborne that they knew that Coach Snyder was going to build something special here. And you could just see it being as a player, I was nothing special as a player. And when I played, everybody got to get in that game, and I don't mean any disrespect. That's just where the program was. And then as a GA, I saw, wow, Coach Snyder's doing things the right way. And Coach Snyder's building a culture down there. And then I got to come back here when I was in New Mexico State, when they were up and running and they had Sproles and Joe Hall and Lieber, and I can't even name them all. And they beat the brakes off of us when I was in New Mexico State, and I got to feel that wrath of where Kansas State, had come from and was now. And it's been impressive to watch, and hopefully we can just continue to build upon that great tradition that he started here.
And the facilities. The program learning how to win and be successful is one thing, but the facilities now at Kansas State are just impressive. They really are.
Oh, it was because when I came here in whatever year it was, whatever years that was, early 2000s, I guess it would have been, and the facility was totally different. And then came back on that North Dakota State staff when we played Kansas State. The facilities had improved, but now when I walked in here, on my first day, I couldn't wait to call my family and say, I can't wait for y'all to come down here and see this. This new stadium complex is phenomenal. And what they have been developing and what Gene Taylor has done to continue to develop in that south end zone complex, it's exciting. It is a big-time facility now.
I got to tell you, I'm kind of upset with the south end, and here's why. This is my logic. They are building, like if I could build the perfect sports bar, they're building it at the stadium, but it will only be busy on days when I'm working, and the same's true for you. And I'm a little bitter. I'm a little bitter about this.
I don't know if I'll ever get to see it. There's some places in this facility that I've never seen. I only know what they are, but I pretty much just walk in the front door, come up the elevator, go to my office and the defensive meeting room, and that's about all I get to see. But yeah, you stand down there on that field and how much it's changed from the 80s when I was a player to where we are now. It's remarkable.
Really is. I haven't been in the stadium yet this year. I've got underlying conditions, so I'm being real careful with the COVID monster and staying home and sending my guys to the games. But the look that even adding that south end zone has done to the stadium has just really kind of pulled everything together and made it look like a uniform stadium. It's really cool. I'm impressed.
Yeah, because when I got here in March and looked down there, there was nothing there. And then all of a sudden, I mean, literally like my first day, they started knocking stuff down and carving it out. And to see that transpire over here, over the last 5 or 6 months has been really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast they build that stuff. It's absolutely incredible. I'm just going to ask you some personal questions here. First of all, what's the background of your last name? And could your family not afford the second D? Is that why the D was left out? You were from an impoverished background and couldn't afford all the letters?
Yeah, my dad always used to joke about that. My dad spells his first name Darrel. And he always used to say they were so poor they couldn't afford the second L, and they couldn't afford the D in the middle. So, but in all honesty, people butcher it, Stanard, Stanard, and so my freshman year we go to the Sugar Bowl, and my jersey's in my locker, and it's spelled wrong on the back of my jersey. I'll try to condense this story. Well, anyway, so long story short, most freshmen. I was one of only 3 that even got to go to the Sugar Bowl. They didn't take freshmen back then. And so I go walking around, instead of just shutting up, I go looking for someone to tell, and I find Coach McBride, the defensive coordinator, and I go, "Hey, Coach, they spelled my name wrong." And he proceeded to let me know that I was just lucky to be there, and I need to be appreciative. That's not how he worded it, but he just said pretty much, "You just be dang glad you're even here, Standard." And so I still have that jersey, and my son hangs it in his room. And so when we got to Syracuse, New York, he played for the Cicero Falcons, and sure as heck, they spelled our name wrong, but on the back of his jersey. So he has 2 jerseys in his room, his and mine, with both our last names spelled wrong on the back of them. So I told him, I said, "Hey, just do something so they know how to spell your name right."
That just goes to prove that even as an experienced journalist, sometimes asking the dumb question gets a good answer. I'm interested. After you heard this from Coach McBride, and he probably let you up pretty good, and you as a 18, 19-year-old probably was like, well, what the hell was that? And now as a coach, you probably understand exactly what he was saying. Like, I got better things to worry about than some freshman's jersey.
Exactly. Sometimes you need to be, and it was right on point. And sometimes you just need to understand we're all very fortunate just to be here and to be a part of this, because not everyone gets to have the opportunities that we have as coaches and players.
Yep. You have 4 children. Go through them for me and ages and what they're up to.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Austin is my oldest. He's 27. He's finishing up his master's in engineering and at the University of Nebraska. And my daughter Paige is 24. She works at Midland University up in Nebraska. She is director of, I'm going to butcher it, but long story short, director of social media for their university. And then my son Max is 14. He's a freshman here at Manhattan High. And then Madison is 12. She's a 6th grader here in elementary school.
How is all the moving? How do the kids handle that?
Well, it's interesting. So I got divorced when I was in New Mexico State, and my older kids moved back at a young age to Lincoln, Nebraska, where they've grown up with their mother. And as I moved around the country, and I've still been very involved in their lives, and I'm very close with them. And it's been great to be back here, to be closer to them. And my son came down to watch my son Max play in his 9th grade freshman game, which I'll miss, but he'll get to see here at 4:30 today. And but my 2 younger ones, with my wife Jennifer now, they have experienced living all over the place. So Max, when I can't remember where we were, he had to write a paper wherever you lived. And the teacher was like, you're you're 10 and you live 5 places. So he was born in Fort Collins, and then we moved to Ohio. So we went to Colorado State, Ohio University, then Tulane, and then North Dakota State, Wyoming, Syracuse, Kansas State. So I don't know what that is. How many places? 7 places in 14 years. And but I tell you what, it's really made them well adjusted. They deal with adversity well. They make friends quickly, and they've had to. And especially my daughter. Oh my goodness! If you ever get a chance to meet her, Madison, she's a pistol. So I don't worry about her making friends. And Max is a good athlete. He's a multi-sport athlete. So is she. But he uses sports to make his friendships. Where Madison's the one you got to worry about walking out of Walmart with a stranger when she was younger.
Just nice to everyone.
Just talking to him. Yeah. Just talking to a stranger. And so that's my family and my wife, Jennifer, who I'm very fortunate to been with for, I don't even know how many years now, 16 years, something like that.
You better figure that one out. You better.
Yeah.
I married my wife in 1990, so and it was April, so I've got the April 7th of 1990, so I've got a fourth quarter touchdown in an even year 90. So I've got it down. I'll never forget. And it's easy to figure out your anniversary when you started at a 0. So we just got past 30. So I don't know how she just done it. You haven't really probably had much chance of spending time in Manhattan, have you? Everything's kind of been locked down. Yeah,
it's been unique. I know my wife and kids were all anxious to get to enjoy Manhattan and some of the restaurants and those things. We've had takeout from a lot of them, but haven't had a chance to go sit down. And with our situation now, we're trying to keep our bubble as tight as we can so that we can stay healthy and keep coaching, keep playing.
Yeah, my wife had friends in town, and they were going to go eat at Taco Lucha, and they wanted to be on the patio, and they ended up inside, and she opted out because of my health to not be indoor dining right now. I just can't be around that. So it's kind of sucked. I'm a social person, and now I just sit at home and work. So it's been interesting. I'm not even going to games. So, that Arkansas State game, I think, was the first home game in 25 years I had missed. So it's been interesting, this whole situation. But somehow, some way, you guys came out of a really difficult loss and got back on track. And aside from the record being 2-1, I think that alone says everything you need to know about the stability of this football program.
Well, I think it says a lot about some of the seniors in this program that recognized it wasn't going to be an easy road, and things had to change in order for us to move in the direction we want to move. And my hat's off to them and the way they've embraced the adversity after the first game. And honestly, it starts with Coach Kleiman and the way he brought us all together and laid out a plan that this is what has to get done in order for us to continue to move forward and develop in the culture. And it's been really encouraging to see.
Yeah. I just love your two starting seniors, Eli and Jay Ball, are two really good guys to cover. They're pros when they'd come in the media room and take care of stuff. And I don't know, Justin's he wants to be in sports journalism, so I have an affinity towards him. And I think he's insane for wanting to do that, but it's good. He's quite the personality.
I told him the same thing. He said, and he also mentioned coaching. And I said, well, you're out of your mind getting into this profession. But no, it's an awesome profession, and it's very rewarding. And I think he could be good at either one, whether it be podcasting or coaching.
I think he'd be a great coach. And you probably would give him pretty good advice, because looking through your resume, you paid your dues, brother. I mean, you had to climb the ladder, and you've done a good job of it, and you made the most of your opportunities, haven't you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, I didn't start out, in Division I football, and I think it's maybe who I am, coaching Division III. Loved the experience, loved coaching those guys. My oldest son went to that school for a few years at Nebraska Wesleyan and played soccer there, and I just absolutely loved the people there. I got to be a head coach for a couple of years. I didn't know anything. I was so young. And then, then D2, and then, just kept working my way up. So it's been rewarding. And you know what? A lot of the guys on the staff have similar paths. Yeah. And I think that's what makes us who we are. We appreciate the opportunity.
I remember a great quote from Bill Snyder, and it was during 1.0 before he retired the first time. We were talking about, it was probably around 98 when Oklahoma raided the staff with Bob Stoops and company. He said there's a lot more good football coaches out there than good jobs, and we'll go find people. And he did and kept it going. It's always been impressive how many good coaches there are out there in the world.
There really are. There's great coaches at all levels, starting at high school and even youth football. My older brother has coached youth football for a lot of years. And he always call me and say, "Hey, you guys struggle a little bit." "Yeah, we gave up a few points." And he goes, "Yeah, we're undefeated. We haven't gave up a touchdown." And he's coaching sixth grade or 6-year-olds or whatever they were, 10-year-olds. But he took great pride in that. And there's some unbelievable coaches out there that don't maybe always get the opportunity they wish they could have. And that's what makes this so special to be here at K-State.
Yeah. Your brother's a jerk. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. But those youth coaches are so important. If kids enjoy the game young, make it fun, and they have success, and they're probably going to stick with it.
Well, I tell you what, it's real important that our youth coaches, whether it be Pee-wee, junior high, high school, in a time when there's so many things they're pulling kids away from football, whether it be other sports, other things, the experience they have at a young age with the sport of football is so important that they want to continue to play the game and not get turned off by the game or by youth coaches. We appreciate everything they do because we don't have the guys we have if they aren't keeping them interested in the game at a young age.
I totally agree. Well, Coach, I appreciate your time very much, and the best of luck down in Fort Worth on Saturday with the Horned Frogs.
Hey, Tim, really enjoyed it. I appreciate it. Okay. Just in time. I got to get to a special teams meeting here, so thank you.
We figure out how to block another punt.
There you go. You go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That one was fun. Like I said in the open, you just don't know what you're going to get into when you haven't ever really talked to anyone. And we were even supposed to do this via Zoom, and we had some connection problems there, so we did it on the phone. Zoom's a little bit easier when you got a face-to-face connection. You can kind of talk directly to someone. I'm loving these, man. I'm loving getting to know some of these coaches a little bit better, and I'm loving the fact that you, our listeners, get to listen in on exactly what we're talking about. After talking to Steve Stanard and after you listening to Steve Stanard, I think you probably agree K-State's linebackers are in very good hands. Well, that's it for this week's Sources Podcast. I hope you continue to listen to all of our Powercat podcasts, and make sure you're subscribing at Apple or Spotify or Stitcher or whatever podcast service you prefer. I'm Tim Fitzgerald. We will talk to you on the Sources Podcast next week.
Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.